Thomas Wade was walking home from his night shift at the Portland shipyard when he heard the crying. It was 3 a.m., the streets empty, the city quiet except for distant sirens. The Zarathi conflict had been escalating for weeks, skirmishes in orbit, diplomatic breakdowns, scattered violence as tensions between humans and the alien empire threatened to explode into full war. Most people stayed inside after dark. Too dangerous, too unpredictable. But Thomas had bills to pay and a daughter to feed, so he worked nights and walked home through empty streets, keeping his head down, staying invisible. Then he heard it. A child's cry. Weak, pain-filled, desperate. Thomas stopped. Every instinct screamed at him to keep walking. Nothing good came from getting involved. Not these days. But he was a father. And that cry, it bypassed logic and went straight to his heart. He followed the sound to an alley behind a burned-out building. Debris everywhere, the aftermath of an explosion that had happened earlier that evening. Officially gas leak, unofficially Zarathi sabotage or human retaliation, depending on who you asked. In the rubble, barely visible, was a small form. Thomas approached carefully, pulling out his phone for light. The child was Zarathi, unmistakably alien. Silver-blue skin, large dark eyes, delicate features, maybe 5 or 6 years old in human terms. Her clothes were torn and bloody, her leg bent at a wrong angle, burns across her arms. She looked up at Thomas with such fear that it broke his heart. "Please," she whispered in accented English, "please, don't hurt me." Thomas knelt slowly, hands visible, non-threatening. "I'm not going to hurt you, I'm going to help, okay? You're human. Humans hate us. Some do. I don't. What's your name?" Lyra. "Lyra, I'm Thomas. Can you move?" She tried, whimpered in pain. "My leg. It hurts," Thomas assessed quickly. Broken leg, burns, possible internal injuries. She needed medical attention. But taking her to a hospital would mean questions, authorities, complications. Zarathi children weren't supposed to be on Earth. Not since the conflict started. If authorities found her, she'd be detained, possibly deported to a war zone, or worse. "Okay, Lyra, I'm going to carry you. It's going to hurt, but we need to get you somewhere safe. Can you be brave?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thomas lifted her carefully. She cried out but bit down on the sound, trying to be quiet. Smart kid, survival instinct. He carried her home, a small apartment in a run-down building. His daughter Emily, age 8, was asleep in her room. Thomas laid Lyra on his couch, then raided his first aid kit. "This is going to sting," he warned, cleaning the burns. Lyra gritted her teeth. "Are you a doctor?" "No, just a dad. But I know basic first aid. Your leg, I can splint it, but you need real medical attention. Can't go to hospital, they'll send me away." "Where are your parents?" Lyra's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Dead. The explosion. We were running. They told me to hide. Then fire. They didn't come." Thomas's chest ached. This child had just lost everything. "I'm sorry, Lyra. I'm so sorry." He worked through the night, cleaning wounds, splinting the leg, wrapping burns. By dawn, Lyra was stable but sleeping, exhausted. Emily emerged from her room, rubbing her eyes, saw Lyra on the couch, stopped. "Dad? Why is there an alien in our living room?" "She's hurt. She needed help." "But Dad, the news says a lot of things. What matters is there's a hurt child who needed help, that's all." Emily studied Lyra. "Is she staying?" "For now. Until we figure out what to do." What Thomas didn't know was that someone had seen him carry Lyra into his building, someone who'd call the authorities, someone who believed aliens were the enemy and helping them was treason. By noon, the police were at his door. "Mr. Wade, open up. This is the Portland police." Thomas's stomach dropped. He'd been expecting this, but not so soon. He'd sent Emily to a neighbor's, a kind, elderly woman who asked no questions. Lyra was still asleep on the couch, fever-flushed but breathing steadily. Thomas opened the door to find 4 police officers and 2 federal agents in suits. "Mr. Wade, we received reports that you're harboring an illegal alien. Under the Emergency Security Act, we're authorized to search your residence." "She's a child. She's injured. She needs medical care, not—" "Step aside, sir." They found Lyra immediately. She woke, saw the uniforms, and started crying. "Please don't hurt me." "Please." One of the federal agents, a woman with cold eyes, knelt beside the couch. Lyra of House Zenithar. Lyra's eyes widened in recognition and terror. We've been looking for you. Your presence on Earth is illegal under current interstellar protocols. You'll be detained pending deportation. She's hurt, Thomas protested. She needs treatment. She'll receive appropriate care in federal custody. She's terrified. Look at her. Mr. Wade, you are under arrest for violating the Emergency Security Act, specifically harboring an illegal alien, providing material support to a foreign entity, and obstruction of interstellar law. You have the right to remain silent. Thomas barely heard the Miranda rights. His eyes were locked on Lyra, who was reaching for him, crying, "Thomas, please, don't let them take me." "It's going to be okay," Thomas lied, trying to sound calm. "They'll take care of you." "But I'm scared." "I know, be brave like you were last night. You're so brave, Lyra." The agents separated them. Lyra was taken by medical personnel who'd arrived with the police. Thomas was handcuffed. "Dad!" Emily appeared in the doorway, having broken away from the neighbor. "Dad, what's happening?" "Emily, go back to Mrs. Chen. They're arresting you." "Why?" "Because I helped someone who needed help." "Emily, listen to me. You're going to stay with Mrs. Chen for a while, okay? I'll be back soon." He was lying. He knew it. Emily knew it. "You helped the alien girl. I helped a hurt child. That's what good people do." One of the federal agents pulled Emily aside. "Does your mother—" "My mom's dead," Emily said, voice hard. "It's just us. Just me and Dad." The agent's expression flickered, something almost like regret. "Child services will be contacted. You'll be placed with family or foster care until—" "Until what?" "Until my dad gets out of prison for being a good person." "Emily!" Thomas tried. "This is wrong," Emily shouted. "He saved her life. She was dying in the street." "The law is clear," the female agent said, not unkindly. "During wartime, harboring enemy aliens is treason. She's a child, not an enemy. The distinction doesn't matter under current law." As they led Thomas away, he looked back at his daughter. "Emily, I love you. Mrs. Chen will take care of you. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize for being good, Dad. Don't you dare." Thomas was processed through the system with mechanical efficiency, fingerprinted, photographed, assigned a number, stripped of his identity. His lawyer, a public defender named Sarah Martinez, was blunt. "Mr. Wade, you're facing serious charges. Under the Emergency Security Act, harboring an alien during active conflict carries a mandatory minimum of 10 years. With aggravating factors, you could get 20. I saved a child's life. I understand, but the law doesn't care about intent. It only cares about actions. You harbored an illegal alien. That's a federal crime. So what are my options? Plead guilty, show remorse, hope for leniency. If you fight this, you'll lose, and the sentence will be harsher. What happens to Lyra, the girl I helped? She's in federal custody. She'll likely be deported to Zarathi space once diplomatic channels allow it. She's an orphan. Her parents died in the explosion that hurt her. Sending her back to a war zone is not your concern. Mr. Wade, you need to focus on minimizing your sentence. You have a daughter who needs you. I know, but I couldn't leave that child to die. Noble, but it's going to cost you everything." Thomas took the plea deal. 10 years in federal prison, with good behavior, possibly out in 7. Emily was placed with his sister in Seattle, a woman Thomas barely knew, who had her own family and limited resources. His daughter, uprooted and alone, because he'd chosen to save a stranger. But given the same choice, Thomas would do it again. Federal Prison FCI Sheridan in Oregon became Thomas's home, a medium security facility housing non-violent offenders, white-collar criminals, drug offenders, and a handful of people like Thomas who'd violated wartime security laws. His cellmate was Marcus, a former journalist who'd leaked classified information about the war. "So you're the guy who saved the alien kid," Marcus said their first night. "Heard about your case. You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. I'm a father. She was someone's child. I couldn't just walk away. Most people would have. Then most people have lost something important." Over the years, Thomas and Marcus became friends. They talked about their old lives, their regrets, their hopes. Marcus had lost everything too: career, reputation, family. "Do you regret it?" Marcus asked one day in the yard. "Helping her? No. I regret that helping her was illegal. I regret that the law criminalized basic human decency. But I don't regret saving her life. You're a better man than most. Or a more foolish one. Sometimes they're the same thing." Thomas wrote to Emily every week. Letters describing his days, asking about school, reminding her he loved her. Her responses came less frequently as years passed, not because she didn't care, but because life moved on. She was growing up without him. His sister sent updates. Emily was doing well in school. Emily had made friends. Emily had gotten into college. Emily was thriving despite everything. Thomas was grateful and heartbroken. He'd missed her childhood to save another child's life. He wondered constantly about Lyra. Had she survived? Been deported? Died in custody? There was no way to know. Classified information, his lawyer said. National security. The war with the Zarathi had escalated, then eventually cooled into an uneasy ceasefire. Peace talks were ongoing. Relations were thawing slowly. But Thomas remained in prison, serving his sentence for a crime that had happened during a conflict that was now over. 7 years into his sentence, Thomas was called to the warden's office. "Wade, you have visitors, federal agents." Thomas's heart sank. What now? The 2 agents waiting in the private meeting room were different from the ones who'd arrested him. Younger. One human, one Zarathi. The first Zarathi Thomas had seen in 7 years. "Mr. Wade, I'm Agent Collins. This is Agent Verix. We're with the Interstellar Relations Bureau." Thomas sat warily. "What do you want?" "We want to talk about Lyra of House Zenithar, the child you sheltered 7 years ago." Thomas's heart raced. "What about her?" Agent Verix, tall, elegant, with the same silver-blue skin Lyra had, spoke. "Mr. Wade, what do you know about House Zenithar?" "Nothing. I knew she was Zarathi, that's all." "House Zenithar is one of the oldest noble houses in the Zarathi Empire. Lyra's mother was Lady Seraphine, cousin to the Empress. Her father was Lord Calum, a high-ranking military commander." Thomas processed this. "She said they died in the explosion." "They did. They were on Earth as part of a secret peace delegation. Hardliners on both sides didn't want peace. The explosion was an assassination, designed to look like an accident, kill the delegation and reignite the war. And Lyra survived. Because you saved her. Mr. Wade, for 7 years, the Zarathi Empire believed Lyra died in that explosion. The human government never reported her survival. The officials who took her into custody classified everything about her case. They believed that admitting a Zarathi noble child was found alive would complicate peace negotiations. What happened to her? She was held in a secure facility for 3 years. Then, when the ceasefire was established, she was quietly returned to Zarathi space with no explanation. The Empire assumed she'd been in hiding or protective custody. Is she alive? Very much so. Mr. Wade, Lyra is now 16 years old, and 6 months ago the current Empress died. Lyra, as the last surviving member of the direct royal line, was crowned Empress. Thomas's mind went blank. What? Lyra of House Zenithar is now Empress Lyra Zenithar III, ruler of the Zarathi Empire, and last week she was reviewing classified human files as part of the ongoing peace process. She found her own case file, including the name of the human who saved her life and the sentence he received for doing so. Thomas couldn't breathe. She remembers me. She remembers everything. The explosion, her parents dying, hiding in the rubble, a human man finding her, carrying her to safety, treating her injuries, being taken away while she cried for him. Agent Verix's expression was unreadable. "Mr. Wade, the Empress has requested your immediate release and transport to the Imperial capital. I still have 3 years on my sentence. The Empress personally contacted your president. She's made your release a condition of continuing peace talks. Your government agreed. You're being pardoned, effective immediately." "Why?" "Because the Empress of the Zarathi Empire does not forget the human who sacrificed his freedom to save her life. She wants to meet you, to thank you, and to ensure you're compensated for everything you lost." Thomas felt tears coming. 7 years. 7 years of wondering if she'd survived, if his sacrifice had meant anything. She's alive. She's okay. She's more than okay. She's arguably the most powerful being in the known galaxy, and you, Mr. Wade, are the only reason she exists. Thomas walked out of FCI Sheridan 3 days later, a free man. Emily was waiting outside the gates. 20 years old now, a college junior he barely recognized. She'd grown up in his absence, taller, mature, her mother's eyes in an adult face. "Dad." Thomas couldn't speak. He just hugged her. 7 years of missing her crashing down at once. "I'm sorry," he managed. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. Don't apologize. You did the right thing. I've always known that. I missed everything. Your high school graduation, your first day of college. You'll be there for the rest. That's what matters. They drove to Seattle to his sister's house where Emily still lived while attending university. The place was modest, cramped, nothing like the home Thomas had lost when he went to prison. "So," Emily said, as they sat in the living room, "an alien empress, huh? That's why you were released?" "Apparently. And she wants to meet you." "That's what they said. Tomorrow. There's a diplomatic transport coming to take me to the Zarathi embassy in DC, then to their ship in orbit, then to their capital world. Are you going?" "I don't know. Part of me just wants to stay here, rebuild my life, get a job, be your dad again. And the other part? Wants to know if she's okay, if she remembers, if saving her mattered." "It mattered, Dad. Look, she became Empress and literally forced the government to release you. That's not nothing. It's surreal. Your whole life's been surreal for 7 years. What's one more surreal experience?" Thomas laughed. "Fair point." The next morning, a black diplomatic vehicle arrived. Agent Collins emerged. "Mr. Wade, ready?" Thomas hugged Emily goodbye. "I'll be back soon, a few days at most. Be safe. And Dad, thank her for bringing you home." The drive to DC took hours. At the Zarathi embassy, a sleek building that looked like it belonged on another planet, Thomas was greeted by diplomatic staff who treated him with elaborate respect. "Mr. Wade, the Empress is eager to meet you. The transport departs in 1 hour." Thomas was fitted with a translation device, a small earpiece that would instantly translate Zarathi into English. He was given formal clothes, briefed on proper etiquette, though they assured him the Empress had requested informality, and escorted to a shuttle. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, breaking atmosphere and docking with a massive Zarathi vessel in orbit. The ship was beautiful. Organic curves, bioluminescent panels, technology far beyond human capability. Thomas was led through corridors filled with Zarathi crew members who stopped and stared. Word had spread. The human who saved the Empress was aboard. Finally, they reached a private chamber. The doors opened, and there she was. Lyra stood in the center of the room, and Thomas barely recognized her. She was 16 now, tall and elegant, wearing flowing robes that shimmered with embedded technology. Her silver-blue skin had darker markings, signs of maturity in her species. Her eyes were still large and dark, but they held authority now. Power. She was Empress, ruler of billions. But when she saw Thomas, all that authority melted. Her eyes filled with tears. Thomas. He'd been briefed on proper protocol, bowing, formal address. But Lyra crossed the room quickly and threw her arms around him. "You're real. You're actually here." Thomas hugged her back, this child he'd saved who was now a young woman, and felt his own tears fall. "Hi, Lyra. You got big." She laughed through tears. "You saved my life. I never forgot. Not for 1 day. I wondered what happened to you. They wouldn't tell me. Classified, they said. They lied to my people. Said I'd died. For 3 years I was held in a human facility, then returned to my empire with no explanation. Everyone assumed I'd been in hiding, traumatized. They never knew a human had saved me, that a human had gone to prison for saving me. I'm just glad you're okay." Lyra stepped back, wiping her eyes. "I'm more than okay. I'm Empress. And one of my first acts was reviewing human-Zarathi relations. When I found your file, when I learned what they did to you," her voice hardened. "I was furious. It's done now, I'm free. That's what matters." "No. What matters is justice. You lost 7 years. Your daughter grew up without you. Your life was destroyed for saving mine. That's not acceptable. Lyra, I don't want revenge. Neither do I. I want accountability and compensation. Thomas, you gave up everything for me. It's time the universe gave something back." Over the next hours, Lyra explained everything. When she'd been returned to Zarathi space at age 9, traumatized and confused, she'd been placed with distant relatives. They'd treated her kindly but distantly. She was damaged goods, a reminder of the failed peace delegation. She'd grown up in the shadows of the court, learning politics and survival. When the Empress died without direct heirs, the succession laws had pointed to Lyra, last surviving member of House Zenithar, with royal bloodline. She'd been crowned at 15, youngest Empress in Zarathi history. "I didn't want it," Lyra admitted, "but I knew I could use the position, could make changes, could honor the memory of my parents, who died trying to make peace." That's a lot of responsibility for a teenager. No more than being a father is. You were barely older than I am now when you became a parent, and you did it well. I don't know about that. I ended up in prison. For doing the right thing. That's the kind of father, the kind of person I aspire to be like. I'm not a role model, Lyra. I'm just someone who couldn't walk away from a hurt child. That's exactly what makes you a role model. Lyra's expression was fierce. Thomas, most beings talk about honor and duty. You lived it. At great cost. That matters. What happens now? Now we make sure your sacrifice wasn't for nothing. I'm formally offering you a position as ambassador to the Zarathi Empire. You'll be humanity's representative at my court. Salary, housing, full diplomatic status. Your daughter can join you if she wishes, or you can split time between worlds. Thomas was stunned. I'm not qualified to be an ambassador. I'm a shipyard worker. You're the man who saved my life. That's all the qualification I need. And Thomas, this isn't charity. I'm not giving you this position out of pity. I'm offering it because you have something my court desperately needs. Integrity. Actual, lived integrity. Not performative honor, but real moral courage. I need to think about it. Of course, take all the time you need, but Thomas, know this. You have a home here, always. You saved me once. Let me save you now. Before Thomas could return to Earth, Lyra had one more request. I want you to meet someone. It won't be pleasant, but it's necessary. She led him to a secure conference room where two humans waited under guard, the federal agents who'd arrested him 7 years ago. Thomas's stomach churned, recognizing them. The cold-eyed woman, the bureaucratic man. Agent Morrison, Agent Reeves, Lyra said, her voice formal and imperial. You arrested Thomas Wade 7 years ago. You separated him from his daughter. You ensured he was prosecuted under wartime laws for the crime of saving my life. Morrison's face was carefully neutral. We were following orders and laws, Your Majesty. Whose orders? Who decided to classify my survival? Admiral Richard Chambers. He determined that revealing you were alive would complicate peace negotiations. So you hid me, held me for 3 years in a facility, sent me back with no explanation, and punished the man who saved me. We did our jobs. Your job was to destroy a good man's life to cover up diplomatic failures? Lyra's eyes blazed. Thomas Wade is the only reason I'm standing here. The only reason there's an Empress to negotiate with, and your government imprisoned him for it. Reeves spoke carefully. Your Majesty, with respect, we were at war. The laws were clear. The laws were wrong. And you enforced them without question, without mercy, without humanity. Lyra turned to Thomas. Do you have anything you want to say to them? Thomas looked at these people who'd destroyed his life. Part of him wanted to rage, to demand apologies, to make them understand what they'd taken. But mostly he just felt tired. I don't hate you, Thomas said finally. I did, for a while. But I realized you were just doing what you thought was necessary. The system was broken. You were part of that system. I can't change the past. I can only try to make the future better. You're more forgiving than they deserve, Lyra said. Maybe, but I don't want to carry that anger anymore. It's too heavy. Lyra studied him, then nodded. Very well. Agent Morrison, Agent Reeves, you are banned from Zarathi space for life, and I will be recommending to your government that the laws you enforced be repealed. Imprisoning people for basic decency is barbaric. After the agents were escorted out, Lyra turned to Thomas. You're a better person than I am. I wanted them to grovel. Revenge doesn't heal anything. No, but it feels satisfying. For a moment. Then it's just more weight to carry. Is that what 7 years in prison taught you? Forgiveness? No. 7 years taught me that holding on to anger just extends the sentence. I was already in prison. I didn't need to build another one in my mind. Lyra hugged him. You're wise and kind, and I'm so grateful you're the one who found me. Me too, kid. Me too. Thomas returned to Earth to discuss the ambassador position with Emily. It's an incredible opportunity, she said, processing everything. But Dad, do you want it? Or do you just feel obligated because she's offering? Both, honestly. I want to help her. She's doing something important, building peace between our peoples. But I also don't want to leave you again. I missed so much. I'm not a kid anymore, Dad. I'm in college, building my own life. If this is what you want, I support it. What if I want both? To be involved in her world and still be present in yours? Then we figure it out. Lyra said you could split time. She has fast ships. You could be back on Earth in hours if I needed you. And Dad, this might sound crazy, but maybe this is what you're meant to do. Maybe saving her 7 years ago wasn't just a random act. Maybe it was the first step in something bigger. I don't believe in destiny. Neither did I. But you saved an Empress. She forced the government to release you. Now she's offering you a role in galactic peace. That's either the longest string of coincidences ever, or the universe has a plan. Thomas thought about it for days. The safe choice was staying on Earth, rebuilding his simple life, working a normal job, being near his daughter. But Lyra was right. He'd sacrificed everything once for what was right. Walking away now felt like making that sacrifice meaningless. He called Lyra. I'll do it. I'll be your ambassador, but on one condition. Name it. I want the title changed. Not ambassador to the Zarathi Empire. Ambassador of Human-Zarathi relations. I'm representing both sides, not just mine. If we're building peace, it has to be equal. Done. When can you start? Give me 2 weeks to settle things here, then I'm yours. Thomas spent those 2 weeks reconnecting with Emily, tying up loose ends, saying goodbye to the few friends he'd maintained. Marcus, his old cellmate, called to congratulate him. From prison to the Imperial Court, that's quite a journey. I'm terrified I'll screw it up. You won't. You're genuine. That's rarer than intelligence or experience. Just be yourself. Myself got me arrested, and then freed by an Empress. I'd say that's a net positive. On his last day on Earth, Thomas visited the alley where he'd found Lyra. It had been rebuilt. No signs of the explosion that had killed her parents and changed both their lives. He stood there remembering that night, the crying, the fear in her eyes, the choice he'd made. Worth it. Emily had followed him. Yeah, even with everything. The prison, the lost years. Yeah, she's alive. She's thriving. She's making the universe better. That's worth 7 years. You're a good man, Dad. I'm just a man who couldn't walk away from a hurt child. That's not heroic. It's basic. The fact that you think it's basic is exactly why you're a hero. Thomas's life as ambassador was nothing he'd expected. He lived aboard the Empress's flagship, a massive vessel that served as mobile capital while Lyra traveled between worlds. His quarters were larger than any home he'd ever had, with floor-to-ceiling windows showing the stars. His job was part diplomat, part advisor, part bridge between two civilizations. What does humanity really think about us? Lyra would ask during their frequent meetings. Depends who you ask. Some see Zarathi as potential allies, some as threats. Most just don't know much about you beyond media stereotypes. And what do you think? I think you're people. Complicated, flawed, capable of both cruelty and kindness, just like humans. That's refreshingly honest. You hired me for honesty. If you wanted diplomacy speak, you should have hired a politician. Lyra laughed. I have plenty of those. What I needed was someone who sees me as Lyra, not just as Empress. And that became Thomas's real role, being the person in Lyra's life who remembered who she'd been. The scared child in the rubble. The survivor. Do you ever have nightmares? Thomas asked one evening as they watched a planet drift past the viewport. Yes, about the explosion, about my parents, about being taken away from you. I'm sorry I couldn't stop them. You did what you could. You saved me first. Everything else followed from that. Do you resent it? Being Empress? All this responsibility? Sometimes. But then I remember, if I'm not in this position, someone else is. Someone who might not care about peace, about justice, about honoring my parents' vision. So I carry it. You're stronger than I was at your age. I learned from the best, a human father who gave up his freedom to protect a stranger's child. That's the kind of strength I aspire to. Thomas's work facilitating human-Zarathi relations was challenging but meaningful. He negotiated trade agreements, cultural exchanges, joint scientific missions. He helped humans understand Zarathi honor codes and helped Zarathi understand human individualism. Slowly, walls between the civilizations crumbled. Emily visited twice a year, spending weeks aboard the flagship. She and Lyra became friends, bonding over their shared experience of growing up too fast with too much responsibility. Your dad's amazing, Lyra told Emily during one visit. He doesn't realize how much influence he has. The other ambassadors respect him. The crew loves him. And me. I trust him completely. He's good at being trustworthy. It's more than that. He's good at being human, at reminding everyone, human and Zarathi, that politics and power matter less than basic decency. 3 years into his ambassadorship, Thomas received word that Admiral Chambers, the man who'd ordered his prosecution, had died. "Are you going to the funeral?" Lyra asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to. Part of me never wants to see anything connected to that time again." What does the better part want? Thomas thought. Closure. Understanding why he did it. Then go. I'll come with you if you want. An empress at a human military funeral? That'll cause a scene. Good. Let them see that we honor even those who made mistakes. At the funeral, Thomas was surprised to find a letter waiting for him. Chambers had written it before dying, to be delivered to Thomas. "Mr. Wade, I don't expect forgiveness, but you deserve an explanation. When you saved Lyra, I made a calculated decision to hide her survival. I believed revealing a Zarathi noble child on Earth would reignite the war. I classified everything, including your trial, to prevent that information from spreading. I thought I was preventing thousands of deaths by sacrificing one man's freedom. It was a terrible calculation, but one I believed necessary. I was wrong. I should have found another way, should have protected both the peace process and your freedom. Instead, I took the easy path, silence and sacrifice of the innocent. Watching you serve as ambassador, seeing you build the peace I tried to protect through cruelty, has shown me what real leadership looks like. Not calculation and sacrifice, but compassion and bridge building. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better." Admiral Richard Chambers. Thomas read the letter twice, then carefully folded it. "Closure?" Lyra asked. "Something like that. He was wrong, but he was trying in his broken way to do right. That's all any of us can do. You're far too forgiving. Maybe, or maybe I've learned that carrying grudges is exhausting. I'd rather build something new than punish people for the past. Then let's build something new. Together." 5 years after Thomas became ambassador, the Human Zarathi Alliance was formally signed. The ceremony took place on neutral ground, a space station jointly built by both civilizations. Leaders from dozens of worlds attended. Media from across the galaxy covered it. And Thomas Wade, former shipyard worker and convicted criminal, stood on stage as one of the primary architects of peace. "This alliance exists because two peoples chose to see each other as potential friends rather than inevitable enemies," Thomas said in his speech. "But it also exists because of smaller choices. The choice to help rather than harm, to risk rather than retreat, to hope rather than hate. 7 years ago, I made a choice to save a child's life. That choice cost me my freedom. But it gave us all something more valuable, proof that compassion transcends species, that decency isn't bound by borders, and that the smallest acts of kindness can reshape the future. Empress Lyra and I are proof of that. A human father and a Zarathi child, brought together by tragedy, building something beautiful from pain. If we can do it, anyone can." The audience, human and Zarathi together, rose in applause. After the ceremony, Lyra found Thomas. "You did it. You actually did it. We did it. You, me, thousands of people who chose peace over conflict. But it started with you, with that choice in the alley. It started with your parents, with their mission. I just picked up what they left behind and carried it further than they ever could have. Thomas, my parents would be proud. Of me, yes, but especially of you, the human who honored their sacrifice by saving their daughter. I didn't do it to honor anyone. I did it because it was right. Exactly, that's why it mattered." Lyra hugged him. "Thank you for everything, for saving me, for staying, for building this with me. Thank you for giving me a purpose, for making my sacrifice mean something. It always meant something. I just made sure the universe recognized it." Years later, Thomas stood in the gallery of the Zarathi Imperial Archives, looking at a display case. Inside was a worn child's jacket, the one Lyra had been wearing the night Thomas found her. Preserved, labeled, part of history. Next to it, a placard. This jacket belonged to Empress Lyra Zenithar III, when she was orphaned on Earth during the final days of the human Zarathi conflict. She was saved by Thomas Wade, a human father who risked everything to protect a stranger's child. His sacrifice exemplifies the compassion that ultimately brought our peoples together. Emily appeared beside him, older now, with her own family, a Zarathi husband and 2 hybrid children. "Still surreal?" she asked. "Always. I was just trying to help a hurt kid. I didn't mean to start a historical alliance. That's what makes it work. You weren't trying to be a hero, you were just trying to be decent, and somehow that changed everything." Thomas's granddaughter, 5 years old, silver blue skin with human features, tugged his hand. "Grandpa, is that really your jacket?" "No, sweetie, that's Auntie Lyra's jacket, from when she was little. And you saved her?" "I helped her, when she was hurt and scared. Because that's what good people do?" "Exactly." His granddaughter hugged him. "You're the best grandpa." Thomas smiled, heart full. 7 years in prison, losing everything, rebuilding from nothing. And now this. Grandchildren who lived in a universe where humans and Zarathi were allies, where the species barrier was irrelevant, where peace was normal. "Worth it," Emily whispered. "Every second." That evening, Thomas had dinner with Lyra, now in her 20s, still Empress but also his friend. "I'm stepping down," she told him. Thomas nearly dropped his fork. "What?" "I'm abdicating. Not immediately. In 2 years, once we've established a democratic council system, the Zarathi Empire needs to evolve beyond monarchy. I've been arguing this for years, now the council agrees. But you're a good Empress." "I'm a reluctant Empress, and I've been doing this since I was 15. A decade of my life, dedicated to rebuilding what my parents started. But Thomas, I want to live, to explore, to be Lyra, not just Empress Lyra. What will you do? Travel, study, maybe join your diplomatic corps. Build things without the weight of a crown. You've earned that. So have you. Thomas, you've been ambassador for 8 years. When I step down, your official position ends too. What will you do?" "I haven't thought about it." "Think about it. Because I'm offering you a choice. Retire to Earth, live with Emily and your grandchildren, or come with me. Keep building peace, keep connecting worlds, keep being the bridge you've always been." "As what?" "As my partner. Not romantic, I'm not asking that, but as my partner in this work. 2 beings who understand what it costs to build something better, who've already proven they work well together." Thomas thought about his life. The alley, the prison, the ambassadorship, the alliance. Everything that had come from one choice to help a hurt child. "Okay, let's keep building. But Lyra, we do it as equals this time, not Empress and ambassador. Just 2 people trying to make the universe slightly better. Deal." They shook hands. Human and Zarathi, father figure and the child he'd saved, friends bound by sacrifice and survival and hope. And somewhere in the universe, in that alley where Thomas had found a broken child, where he'd made the choice that changed everything, a memorial plaque read, "Here, Thomas Wade chose compassion over safety, humanity over law, and kindness over fear. His choice saved a life. And that life saved us all." 20 years after the alley, Thomas Wade celebrated his 70th birthday surrounded by family. Emily and her Zarathi husband. 3 grandchildren. Living proof of alliance made flesh. His sister, who'd cared for Emily during the prison years. Friends from both species. And Lyra, no longer Empress, but still royal in bearing. Still carrying the authority of someone who'd ruled an empire and chosen to give it up for something better. "Speech," the guests called. Thomas stood, uncomfortable with attention but game to try. 20 years ago, I made a choice that seemed small at the time. Help a hurt child. Simple. Obvious. Human. But that choice cost me 7 years. Cost my daughter a father during crucial years. Cost me everything I'd built. And yet I'd do it again. Because that child, he gestured to Lyra, became someone extraordinary. Not because of me, but because of who she always was. I just gave her the chance to become it. What I've learned is that the smallest choices ripple outward in ways we can't predict. Helping one child led to an alliance between species. Choosing compassion over law led to law becoming more compassionate. Sacrificing my freedom led to more freedom for everyone. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who couldn't walk away from a hurt child. But maybe that's all heroism is. Doing the right thing when it costs something. When it's hard. When no one's watching and there's no guarantee it'll matter. It mattered, not because of me, because of all of us. Because we chose, over and over, to build something better. Thank you for being part of that building. For honoring an old man who once made a choice. For proving that compassion isn't weakness, it's the strongest force in the universe. The room erupted in applause. Lyra approached, hugged him. "You're wrong, you know," she whispered. "You are a hero. My hero. Always. And you're my greatest achievement, not because I saved you, because you became someone worth saving. We saved each other, Thomas. That night in the alley, we both began again. You taught me what it meant to survive. I taught you what it meant to thrive. Fair trade. Fair trade. They stood together, the father who gave up freedom for a stranger's child, and the Empress who used her power to honor that sacrifice, proof that love transcends species, that compassion builds empires, and that the choice to help one person can change the universe. The party continued around them. Music, laughter, joy. Two species, once enemies, now family. And Thomas Wade, who'd once been nothing but a shipyard worker, who'd been called criminal and traitor, who'd lost everything for doing what was right. He was finally home. Not in a place, but in the knowledge that his sacrifice had mattered, that his choice had rippled outward, that the child he'd saved had saved him right back. That was legacy, that was love, that was enough.